All right, there we go. Okay, hello, everyone. I'm Monique at Divine Shift Coaching, and we have Melissa McCrery with us today. It is March, what are we at here? March 4th, 2026. And we are going to talk about toxic patriarchy and the church, other things as well, but related to the church in general, because that is, we both have a background in Christianity and we both love Christ. So welcome, Melissa.
Thank you.
I'm coming from British Columbia today on the west coast of Canada, and I think Melissa's in Texas. Is that right?
Yep.
Texas. I'm just going to read Melissa's bio real quick so you can just get to know a little bit more about her, and then we will jump right into this fiery, juicy, good, very relevant conversation. All right, so Melissa is a writer and identity strategist exploring identity reclamation and the deconstruction of inherited systems. Hello, very much needed. Her work challenges religious, cultural, and patriarchal conditioning that fragments women's sense of self. She guides women in rebuilding from sovereignty, integrity, and embodied authority rather than performance or compliance. So we are going to talk today about deconstructing faith and cultural norms, religious and cultural norms, and also reconstructing. It's hard to say fast. So let me just briefly say that I have a background raised as a Christian, and I stopped going to church 7 years ago. If you're new to my channel, go look at some of the other videos as well, and feel free to comment, ask questions. I'm totally open, and I love to answer questions. Melissa, I want to get into this juicy conversation, but maybe we should also just give a little bit of your background first so that people know where you're coming from as well.
Sure. So I have, as everybody, quite a dynamic background. My grandfather, my maternal grandfather, was a Pentecostal preacher and missionary. And so by default, that is where my mom would take us. That's where the family went. And when I was 8 years old, I had finally had enough of the things that just didn't feel right. I had, since being really, really little, had been very, very attuned to Holy Spirit and had ridiculous wisdom and knowledge that was literally just supernatural, no explanation for at that age, especially. And so at 8 years old, I came out and said, I'm not a Pentecostal to my family. And, went over like a lead balloon with most of the family. And my mom was like, okay, so what are you? Mm-hmm. And mind you, I was 8 years old. I have grown children now. I have my first grandchild who's just 15 months. And I'm looking at him like, oh my gosh, what would I say if in 7 years you approached me with the same conversation? Mm-hmm. But I had said,
was that when you lived? Did you grow up in California?
I grew up in California. Yeah, I was born and raised in California. We moved in 2010. So I had just straight up, very matter-of-factly, told my mom, well, I just believe Jesus. And she's like, well, so do we. And I was like, oh no, you guys have a whole lot of extra rules. And she was like, well, that's doctrine. And I'm like, I don't care what you call it. I was just like, I'm done. I'm done. And I would find myself little kids, they go to the Sunday school, and I would be asking questions of the Sunday school teacher who would just get frustrated with me.
Yeah.
And she'd send me to adult church. I'd have to go sit in adult church with my mom, with, my grandfather yelling into a microphone, which made me crazy. And so
preaching is hard to listen to.
Yeah. And so I had just had enough. So I actually, and this is what's funny, and this is just part of the journey, right? And this is the discovery. The first kind of mega church in our town had started, and it was when non-denominational was a new thing. And so I was like, that's where I'm going, you know, because in my mind, that's what was going to fix everything. And so that's where I had started going with some friends. And lo and behold, eventually my mom and my stepfather started going there. And then, you know, we became non-denominational. Actually, it was rooted in Assemblies of God. So I didn't get very far away from the Pentecostal stream of things. But, you know, that is kind of, you know, where I grew up in. And by that time too, I was pretty comfortable with the theory that I'd always been taught, that, you know, pick out the meat, spit out the bones. So, you know, there were things that would be taught and I'm like, I don't know if that one, you know, really settles.
Yeah.
And
so like you had a discernment that sort of Holy Spirit was helping you with this discernment.
Yeah. So, you know, went through various cycles. I say there's just a constant deconstruct and reconstruct that goes on in our life. I have not arrived. I would say that at the day that I arrive, I hope, you know, God zaps me out of here, because then it's pointless. And so that's just kind of how I've approached my life, is a constant deconstruction and reconstruction. And the reason being is I understand, you know, neuroplasticity. I understand how we get programmed from 0 to 12, you know, and how layered and how deep that programming is. And I wish there was a magic wand that we could just, you know, blow it all away and reconstruct from the truth. But the truth is we reconstruct from the level of truth that we understand at that time. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's a constant process. And that's where I have been. That's what I embrace. That's what I love. And that's what I help women do.
Amazing. Yeah. I feel like that is so, that's what we're doing right now. That's what I'm called to as well. So I'm curious, for those who don't know either of us, do you love Jesus? Like, do you love Christ? Do you have a faith belief? Are you still going to church?
So I'm not going to church. I stopped in 2020. I grew up. I've been in ministry. Actually, I first started when I was 13 years old. You know, my husband pastored a church. I was a worship leader in a number of churches, led so many different ministries. It's not even funny. Was heavily involved governmentally for a period of time. And in 2020 is when I just kind of went, I'm really, really done with man's systems that are built around Christ, and have never wavered in my love for God, for Holy Spirit, for Christ. I am pretty passionate about my truth is, I don't think the church frickin' knows Jesus. Like, they're teaching about somebody else, because the Jesus I know is so different than the one that I think that they teach around. And really what I have found is they're actually teaching a system that they've built around Jesus versus Jesus himself, in my opinion. So it gave me a lot of freedom. I came across Dalai Lama's quote, "I love your Christ, I just don't love your Christians." And I was like, yep. Oh my gosh, that so resonates with me. So
and I'm coming from Canada, and I did live in the States for 2 years actually, and I've traveled the world and lived in other places. But I think that there's definitely a different thing going on in Canada around Christianity than there is in the States. And the States is a really big country, so there's different areas and states and individual states, of course. But like in Canada, I know I'm seeing that there's a lot of spiritual, new age, curious. I call them Christ curious.
Yeah.
And then also people leaving church. Like, I wish I could see the numbers. I don't know where we find these exact numbers. I was trying to talk to ChatGPT about it, but I don't know where we find these numbers exactly. But there's people like leaving church, but we still, as humans, we still want to come together. We still have a desire for unity and harmony, and learning together, singing together. Like, I'm in song circles where I live. I'm in quite a nature loving sort of hippie with all millionaires and billionaires and also people living out of their car. It's like that's the area that I live in, and we're very connected to nature. But yeah, people, we want to be connected. That's just like how we're designed. Doesn't matter what you believe, what you're into, whatever. We want to be connected.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, this deconstructing from, there's toxic patriarchy, and this phrase has become, it's even triggering for me. Like, I love men. I love humans. I love human beings.
Yeah.
I love this planet. I have, like, sometimes when I think of like dying, like leaving this planet, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I love this planet so much. Like, I want to be here. It's pretty, I don't know what has happened before exactly, but it's pretty nuts that we chose to be here. And like, I'm excited to be here. Sure. So yeah, but like, we do need to deconstruct and figure out what is toxic patriarchy, because it's harming men as well.
Yeah, it is.
And then, yeah, I feel like that's just the state of the world right now. We're actually like deconstructing, like, okay, matrix things, okay, governmental things, family things.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think where we find deconstructing the needed deconstruction in the patriarchal system is not about getting rid of men. Yeah. It's about the systems that were formed that create a hierarchy between men and women.
Yeah.
And that's when it becomes toxic. That we no longer have co-leadership. We no longer have equal representation between the male and the female. And when that began, and you had, women in more subjugated positions, they were there in safety, right? Because the male was out killing the lions, tigers, and bears, and keeping the women safe. And the women were having their babies in their cave. And, it was symbiotic. And then systems began to be formed in order to have power hierarchies. So I have a theory around systems. Systems in and of themselves are not bad if they are set up to serve all people. So if the system is subjugated to the people, then it's good.
Right.
It's serving. However, if the system requires people to serve it,
right,
it becomes toxic. So at the point, when there is patriarchy, when there is male-led systems, and those male-led systems are serving those who they are meant to protect, right? So it's like Christ laid down his life for the church is, the religious example of that. Then it's good and it's healthy and it benefits everybody, right? It benefits the male that feels like he's got a purpose and accomplishing things. But as soon as that flip-flopped and it required women to subjugate to the system, then it became a power hierarchy. And so it's not so much about tearing down men as it is about deconstructing the system that was built to benefit men and subjugate women.
And also, I've been talking a lot about divine feminine and divine masculine, which is within all of us. And you could call it yin and yang, or you could call it flow and structure, whatever vocabulary you want to use. But as human beings and me inside my own body with flesh and then also liquids inside, I need a structure, but I also need flow. Like my blood has to flow through my veins and my bones have to hold the structure of my body. And then you can take that beyond, like, you know, the structure of your gardening and the structure of a town, etc. So it's like, and then, yeah, so within each of us, we have and I say divine to clarify that, like a pure, honest, for the good of all, divine masculine and a divine masculine. And we all have some toxic masculine and some toxic feminine within us. And so, yeah, when I say toxic patriarchy, it's not against men. It's against what you're saying. Yeah, describing the system. And that, yeah, I see this unfolding in all of us, that we're discovering this language. And probably people were talking about this in the 60s and 70s, but I'm 40 and it's 2026, and I'm talking about it right now. It seems all new and fresh to me. But yeah, I feel like that's part of the root of this conversation. And
it's balance, right? So we all have the masculine, we have the feminine. Like you used a great analogy, you know, within the body system, we have structure, we've got the bones, we've also got our skin, you know, that's holding stuff together. We have our, you know, 6 different organ systems that, you know, have to flow. Which one is more important? Is our structure more important, or is the flow of the systems more important? Mm-hmm. Well, you can't say one is more important than the other. Yeah. They're both required. If you take all of my bones out, what's the point of, you know, I can't do anything, mm-hmm. right? And if you take my systems out, any one of them, right, I'm not whole. Mm-hmm. And so it's the same with the masculine and the feminine. We have to balance that within ourselves. When it's not, you know, that's when we create toxic systems within ourselves. You know, if all I'm going to do is focus on, let's say, building my muscles.
Yeah.
But I'm going to live on McDonald's.
Right.
Right. So all of a sudden my, you know, GI system, my cardiac system are going to fail me, but I got muscles. Mm-hmm. Right. And so it's the same thing in being intentional and aware of how we're flowing in our masculine and our feminine, and learning to flow in that.
Yeah. And it seems like, for like, when I think about different pastors and different church structures that I've witnessed, there has to be a conversation with women. Like, a pastor is serving men and women, and so there has to be ongoing conversations and integration of, like, okay, well, what do the women need, what do the children need, and just this flow of conversation between of what is needed, because this, like, dictator, I know everything, I'm the smartest in the room and I'm going to tell you everything, I think we're all pretty done with that. And, like, even on social media and as I market my coaching and share, it's like, I do like a more circle approach, a more conversation, a more like, let's get in circle. I will hold the space and facilitate the structure for us. And I'm not going to act like I'm the smartest person in the room about everything. Maybe I know more about something than most of them, but maybe this woman knows more about this other thing that I don't know about. So it's like, I feel like, is there circling needed to get out of this toxic patriarchy system?
Yeah, I think, you know, unfortunately, what we find currently, and particularly in churches and religious circles, is a predominant patriarchal lens that, you know, even the approach to scripture, you know, whichever canonized version they happen to be following, you know, is viewed for the patriarchal lens. And so these pastors, many of them, truly believe, because of their own programming, their own 0 to 12 programming, that they're correct and doing the best by their people. And so this is why the deconstruction and reconstruction is so critical. This is why I'm so passionate. It's almost like, if you haven't deconstructed, I don't trust you. Bottom line, right? Because I know, and I'll use this example with my clients all the time. If you got a computer when you were 12 years old, right? The computer that you're using right now, while we're on a Zoom call, well, you know what? You got that computer when you were 12 years old, and you have not updated the operating system since then. And the majority of my clients are all over 40. I'm like, how well do you think that computer is really serving you?
Yeah.
And they just look at me like, well, I would never have a computer from when I was 12 and be trying to, I'm like, but yet you are. This is literally the most powerful computer on earth. And if you have not upgraded it, you're running on an operating system that was developed between the ages of 0 and 12. So circling that back, when it comes to finding a pastor, you know, if you want to be in a church or you want to be with whatever leader that is going to lead or influence you greatly in something that is, you know, as critical as your spiritual journey, I would be checking in with how deep have they deconstructed and reconstructed from their original program. And if they don't know what you're talking about, I would wish them well and move on.
And that's like, is there space to be curious and ask questions, or is it just shut down? Like,
right. And I think that will tell you a lot about the degree that leader has deconstructed and reconstructed, because that process in and of itself forces you to be open and recognize other people's processes. Yeah. So and if they're not okay with it, they haven't gone through it.
And that's a tricky sort of leadership characteristic that, you know, can absolutely be developed or through training. I used to do outdoor leadership with police officers, teachers, youth, university students. And you have to, when you're leading a dynamic group or in circle or whatever you're doing with a group of people, or even just one person, there's an edgy dynamicness to it. Like, you don't know what they're going to say or what's going to happen. You've got to be prepared, but also have this flexibility of like letting the flow happen. And if you feel like you have to be perfect and say the perfect thing, and you have an idea like it's going to go exactly like this and the structure has to stay the same and when somebody asks a question and you don't have the answer for it, but you feel that you need to look like you're the person with all the answers, that can really mess with your brain. Like, oh my gosh, like that's rude, you know. And in some cultures, you're not even allowed to ask questions of other people. Like when I lived in Asia, and I'm a very inquisitive, curious person, and I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to make anyone look less than. I'm like, that's the furthest thing from my mind. I just really want to know. I'm just curious. And I was getting into trouble a lot because this asking questions and this being curious is not really allowed, because you might make somebody look like they don't know everything. And I'm like, what? No. Like, what? Just like, if I'm in a leadership position, you know, there's a way that you can be rude or say something inflammatory in front of other people. But if you're just curious and you have created like a loving, flexible curiosity in the space, then it's just like, oh, that's a really interesting question. I don't know. let's look into that together, you know?
Yeah, and I think, we're talking about patriarchy for a number of years. I developed a program called Principle-Based Leadership, and again, was teaching it to women. And it's about leading yourself, leading life from the inside out. And the reason why I developed that, because of my background in leadership, I came from having a VP position in the corporate finance realm. And so I was in a very male dominated completely career. Wow. And leadership was very tactic strategy, based, and, had to go to all the leadership training and conferences. And it's another system that is very patriarchal influenced, very male, masculine influenced. And so when leadership is taught in the church or out of the church, right, it's taught from that mindset. And so it's just another way. I mean, I can pretty much point out every system, at least in the United States, I'm not, worldwide, that is influenced by patriarchal structures and systems. And so that inability, the lacking permission to ask questions, like inquisitiveness, intuition, those are very feminine aspects. Actually, they're more in the flow realm versus the structure realm. And so anything in that feminine realm is usually looked down upon. Cultures are built around, you don't do that, right? And so it's infiltrated everything, and not for the better, unfortunately.
It's wild for me at this point in my life, because I have created a life around me that is quite feminine, and then and where I live also has, for better or for worse, has a lot of feminine energy and flow. And then I have to remember, like, oh my gosh, some people are living in Texas and they're having a very different city
experience,
a very different farming experience, a very different household experience.
Sure.
And yeah, it's curious to me that a lot of people are trying to leave that. Like, by saying a lot of people, I mean these women that I'm seeing on Instagram, my sisters, my world sisters. I see a lot of women talking about, I want to leave my 9 to 5. I don't want to work like a man, which isn't necessarily healthy for men either, but they definitely have a body system that can handle a 9 to 5 better than most women. We're all
designed. A lot of them enjoy that structure.
Everyone is different. I am definitely not a 9 to 5 person. And yeah, I see women and they want to be home with their kids, or they want to, like, they're looking for alternatives. That's what's happening in every aspect. And yeah, we can hash over all the shiza, all the toxic patriarchal things, and it's there and we know it. But I'm also excited about where we're going. Like,
yeah,
when I see you and when you say that you've been in corporate finance, I go, that makes sense. And I could see that you could, like, hold a boardroom and talk the talk. And you have, like, deconstructed and reconstructed and learned all these other things, and you're capable of, like, all these different kinds of conversations. I think, like, wow, that's amazing. Like, I'm so glad that you are sharing your skills and your intuitive knowledge with the world, because there are so many women trying to come out of corporate, have come out of corporate, have been forced to come out of corporate because of health issues. And yeah, I'm excited about what we're learning.
Yeah, it's when my stepdad, which that's a whole nother story, was in a whole different world. I'll just say that for this YouTube. My story's out there publicly, but this is not about that. But he raised me basically, there are two type of people, sharks and guppies. And you sure as hell are not going to be a guppy. Yeah. And so, here I am, a little girl, and being raised to be a shark, being raised to be masculine, a fighter, all of that stuff. So, which so many people would say, oh, well, that really served you well because of my career and different positions I've been in. And that in and of itself, that mindset, oh, it served you well, is patriarchal, because it didn't serve me well. It taxed my nervous system like no tomorrow. It stole from my kids, right? From the things that really could have breathed life into me so much younger. I fell into a number of things that are built out of patriarchal systems. I was, in my much younger days, like a bikini model and all this stuff, which is all driven by serving men, right? And, so now, at the age that I am now, and learning to hold space for myself, I'm never going to be the pink, fluffy, flowy dress girl. I'm not, and that's okay. I can appreciate the beauty of that on someone else. But now deconstructing continually and reconstructing to my best design, right? And realizing that for the majority of my life, I was pressed into my masculine, right, to survive. So I was literally living out of survival. And that is where I feel, that's where I find the majority of women today. Yeah. And, yesterday, just went and got my little manicure yesterday, and a lady sits down next to me, and, she's older than me, and she's telling the manicurist as best as she could, because there was a big communication gap going on, what she wanted, what she didn't want. And the manicurist went to go try to find the polish that she wanted. And this woman felt the need to explain herself to me and, got my attention. She said, finally at the age 61, I'm learning to find my voice. And the fact that she needed to tell me that broke my heart. And I was like, well, I'm so glad that you're finding your voice. I wish more people would find their voice. And, I just let it sit at that. And she continued to go on, and she said, I just hate that, I feel like if I'm not agreeable, then, that's bad. And I was like, ooh, like, yeah, I'm getting my nails done right now. This is not your moment to advise a strange woman. And the sad thing is that is part of little girls' programming. You need to be agreeable. They expect the boys to be one way and the girls to be another way. And here's this woman, 61 years old, feeling awkward, trying to explain to this manicurist that she wants OPI red polish. Not
She's
the polish.
Saying exactly what she wants, and it's her hands, and she has to live with it.
And yet she's feeling bad about it because the lady's not understanding. And so she just grabbed a different kind of red polish. And I'm just like, I hate this. And we ended up having a conversation. Fine. She's like, so what do you do? And she actually teaches at the university here. Very capable woman, one of the professors in the nursing program. I mean, and this is what I'm finding all the time. This is the majority of my clients, high professionals or entrepreneurs with successful businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And yet their life, their outside life and their inside life are in conflict.
Yeah.
Because of their programming. And it just makes me crazy, you know? And so my lifelong journey of like, I'm not a shark. I have no need to be a shark. I don't need to eat anybody. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's be vegetarians. We do not need to eat everybody.
And like women working together, we don't have to be, you know, women and men and men and men. We don't all have to be trying to, out shark each other and out be competitive and look prettier, look taller, look smarter, look like we have more letters in front of our name.
Yeah, it's all pointless. It is all pointless.
And it's tricky because it's real, like that's a whole other conversation and we need to end soon here, but like you are trying to survive in this world and keep yourself housed, have a mortgage, have a car that's working, keep a community of friends. And sometimes you might need to shift things around. Like some things might fully deconstruct before you get to reconstruct them. And I've experienced that in my life, and I see that happening to other people, you know, sadly, but must be for the greater good. Marriages ending and, you know, families taking breaks from each other. And I hope that we are going into more unity and harmony again. And also I believe in accepting, like I can have friends where we don't believe every single thing and it's fine. Like it's not gonna, it's never gonna happen. But sometimes there is a reorganizing that happens.
Yeah. And you know, when we learn how to hold space for another human's experience here, we no longer have the need to control their experience. And that's really, you know, what forces us to try to, you know, compete with each other. In, you know, my closest, dearest friend, we don't agree on everything, you know, and I've been on my own deconstruction and reconstruction journey spiritually. And it got to a point where I was like, oh my God, I've got to share this with you. And she was like, Melissa, I can't go there. Like I've deconstructed to my max. And I'm happy right here. And I'm like, okay, like that gets to be your journey.
Yeah.
Right. And we are still best friends. She's my nearest, dearest, most trusted.
Yeah. And not every dinner, not every walk, not every, you know, whatever best friends that we do together as adults. It doesn't always have to be around this one conversation, you know, like I've found that I go partner dancing with people. I know that we all have very different beliefs and we connect over dancing and movement. And it's so beautiful. It's so lovely. And I feel like, oh my gosh, I just love humans. And then I go into a song circle. I look around. I know that we do not all believe the same thing, but there's a resonance and a harmony that we're creating together with our voices. And we are agreeing to agree on like being together in this space. And there's aligned things and there's things that it doesn't matter for that experience if they're not aligned.
Yeah. And I think, you know, when we approach things with what can we find in common versus what makes us different, heals a lot of things, right? So you have dance people and you have this one thing in common that you guys love to dance. So then unify over that, right? Not the differences, the religious difference, the political difference, that, you name it, the skin color difference, that, all the isms that are going on in the world. But if we could learn, I mean, that was Christ's final prayer, that they would be one. Humanity, people would learn how to be one as we are one, right? And if we could just get that down, focus on what do we have in common? Let's connect over that. Why do we feel the need to discuss what we don't? Why do we feel the need to figure out what makes us different?
Mm-hmm.
That's fallen nature. That's not, divine design at all.
And the algorithm, how it's designed, how it's been structured.
Yeah.
Love
benefit
an inflammatory conversation. And, that's why I name things a certain way, toxic patriarchy in the church. I know that you say things in a certain way to draw people in, and that we can have these conversations and it's not all inflammatory, but it's like, part of the structure right now, like on TikTok and social media, it's like really like sometimes I just see the craziest things. I'm like, what? And it's hard not to click sometimes. But it's very curious part of human nature or not human nature. I don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah, I don't personally think that it is part of human nature. I think it's part of our programming. I think, because if you think about human nature, you have to look at a baby that's born.
Yeah.
And they're not looking for differences. They're looking for belonging, safety and belonging. Yeah. And then we start defining for that baby what makes you safe and what makes you belong. And those are the differentiators. But we're not born like that. Mm-hmm. We're born just wanting safety and belonging. And if we can make other people feel safe in our presence and that they belong on this planet, they don't have to belong in my circle. It's okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But they belong on this planet. I think we would heal a lot of the ick. Right? You're safe and you belong here. I may never see you again, but I want you to know you're safe and you belong here.
So good. So good. Let's end on that note.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much for your time and sharing with us today, Melissa. And just being vulnerable.
Well, thanks for inviting me.
Strong.
Yeah, it's always fun to meet new people, and I'm glad that glad my posts hit your newsfeed and started this conversation. That is definitely some of the good stuff that comes out of social media.
Yeah, that's how I found Melissa. I saw some spicy posts that she was sharing on Facebook, and I was like, "Ooh, I want to talk to her." It sounds like we have deconstructed some similar things.
Yeah.
So
it's a great process.
Thank you so much for being here. I hope that you have a great day. And when we go, I'll end the stream and then we can chat a little bit afterwards.
Okay.
So thank you so much, Melissa. Yep. Blessings.